Picture this. You're looking down through a dense, stormy fog at the rushing, muddy waters of the Bonny River in Rivers State. We're talking about the Niger Delta here, literally one of West Africa's most strategically vital commercial corridors. It is a massive gateway for container traffic, offshore support, and complex oil and gas logistics. But today, well, we aren't looking at routine commerce. Today, in this explainer, we're diving into a dramatic reconstruction of an absolute maritime security failure. We're going to break down a catastrophic collision that managed to bring an entire region's supply chain to a grinding, chaotic halt.
Right, let's set the scene. May 20th, 2026. The Bonny Inner Anchorage. Latitude 4.512, longitude 7.189. Alarms are absolutely blaring. There's frantic radio static just filling the bridge. Two vessels have violently collided. You've got injured crew members, a spreading oil spill, and a massive channel blockade forming. But honestly, the most shocking part of this whole incident isn't actually the crash itself. No way. It's the wild mystery of how a routine, highly regulated pilotage operation spiraled into a regional crisis and how the whole thing was hidden behind a stunning 3-day cover-up.
Okay, let's dive into this. The main vessel inbound is this absolute behemoth, the 175-meter bright blue Maersk Valparaiso. We're talking about a highly modern, high-capacity feeder vessel, and it's heading for the West Africa container terminal at Onnet Port under these incredibly heavy, stormy skies. She is loaded down with 717 containers, maneuvering through a muddy, super congested river approach. Now, because this specific area is a compulsory pilotage zone, District A, under the Nigerian Ports Authority, to be exact, there is a licensed local harbor pilot right there on the bridge, physically directing the navigation. The atmosphere? Incredibly tense. There is literally zero margin for error in restricted waters like these.
When you look at the raw numbers, it's a classic David versus Goliath scenario, but with terrifying real-world consequences. On one side, you have Goliath, the modern Maersk Valparaiso, built in 2010, 175 meters long, and weighing in at a massive 23,000 deadweight tons. And then on the other side, crossing this exact same narrow channel, is David, the MT Lady Martina. Now, she is a small, aging coastal oil products tanker built way back in 1962. She's just 57 meters long and carries only 673 tons. The scale difference between these two ships is just absolutely staggering. And it perfectly sets the stage for the kinetic destruction that's about to unfold. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it exposes a deep, systemic rot in our global maritime tracking networks. Okay, so we just established that the physical MT Lady Martina is 57 meters long, right? Well, if you had looked her up in the international AIS tracking databases right before the crash, her length and beam were erroneously recorded as just 2 meters by 2 meters. I mean, that is literally the size of a dining room table. When automated collision avoidance algorithms and electronic chart displays are fed false, corrupted data like that, they completely miscalculate the safety zones around a ship. So the ultramodern technology on that Maersk bridge, it might have literally been blind to the actual physical threat of the tanker until the metal was practically touching.
So how does a modern ship just lose control? Here is exactly how the crash unfolded. Step 1. According to the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, the massive Maersk vessel actually took the wrong channel during its approach. It drifted completely out of the designated deep water lane. Step 2. Because it entered these undredged shallows, the channel's cross-sectional area dropped incredibly fast. Step 3. This triggered a massive spike in what's known as hydrodynamic squat and bank suction. To put it simply, the weird physics of the shallow water basically grabbed the ship's hull, pulling it downward and sideways. And finally, Step 4. A complete loss of rudder control. Imagine the pure terror on the bridge when they realize the ship is just no longer responding to the wheel. What follows is a sudden, violently destructive collision. Deafening metal-on-metal impact, sheer panic among the crew, as the giant container ship plows right into the side of the 64-year-old tanker. The aftermath is immediate, and it is terrifying. The MT Lady Martina takes the absolute brunt of the impact. I mean, it's an aging, single-hull tanker. It stands no chance. It starts rapidly flooding and sinking. You've got crew members scrambling in the dark, jumping into the churning, muddy water just to survive. 5 of them end up with varying degrees of injuries. Meanwhile, our Goliath, the Maersk Valparaiso, drifts uncontrollably after the collision and ends up heavily embedding itself straight into the muddy banks of the Bonny Channel. Both of these vessels are now completely incapacitated.
So the crucial point is, this is exactly where the story turns from a tragic accident into a full-blown scandal. The official timeline of this entire event, it was manipulated.
3 days. That is exactly how long this physical grounding was actively hidden from the public and from regulatory authorities. While the official notifications claim the crash happened on May 20th, local shipping practitioners eventually blew the whistle and revealed the actual physical collision took place on May 17th. You're probably wondering why on earth would anyone keep a massive maritime disaster a secret? Well, because the bridge and ship management teams were desperately hoping that the local tide cycles would naturally lift the container vessel out of the mud. They wanted to quietly sail away and avoid paying millions of dollars in commercial salvage costs.
Let's map out this phantom timeline of deception because it's pretty unbelievable. May 17th, the actual physical collision happens, kicking off the cover-up. For 72 straight hours, 2 grounded ships sit bleeding in a critical commercial channel, completely unreported. But eventually, their gamble fails. The ship just won't budge. So finally, on May 20th at 11:30 a.m., they make the official distress call to the Deep Blue Forward Operating Base. This massively delayed call triggers the deployment of a fast interceptor boat, the DB-214, which rushes toward the survivors with 10 armed personnel. And it isn't even until May 21st that the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, officially inaugurates a situation room. This reporting delay didn't just postpone the emergency rescue, it quite literally allowed the entire disaster to fester and get so much worse.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer geographic fallout of that delay. Think about it. Because the Maersk Valparaiso is 175 meters long and stuck basically horizontally across the channel approaches, it acts like a giant cork in a bottle. It created an absolute physical bottleneck. Outbound vessels that had already finished unloading their cargo at Port Harcourt, they couldn't leave. Inbound vessels, they were forced to just drop anchor, heavily congesting the surrounding area. And because West African ports rely heavily on a hub-and-spoke logistics model, trapping this one single feeder vessel effectively froze regional supply chains stretching all the way across Nigeria, Togo, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire.
But hey, we can't just look at the economics here. The ecological reality is just grim. Authorities officially had to classify this disaster as a Tier 1 oil sheen. Because the MT Lady Martina was built in 1962, it completely lacked the modern double hull protections that are mandatory for newer tankers. The structural impact literally cracked her open. So now, you have thick black petroleum hydrocarbons leaking out, spreading rapidly across the already murky waters of the river. And what makes this even more of a nightmare is that sediment analyses of the Bonny Channel already show high concentrations of heavy metals, things like lead and cadmium, from years of dredging. This fresh oil spill threatens to bind with those existing toxins, directly poisoning the highly sensitive intertidal mangrove habitats that line the shores. It's an environmental disaster multiplier.
Let's rapidly fire off the cascading effects of this blockade, because this really highlights why this matters to the broader global economy. First, you have total gridlock at Port Harcourt. Major vessels, like the MV Jamal Topik, are just stuck at berth 2, unable to sail. Second, access to the APM terminals at One is entirely severed, cut off. Third, Voyage 621S has to be completely abandoned, which means cargo destined for multiple sovereign nations simply is not going to arrive. And finally, this entire incident is forcing urgent hydrographic resurveys of the channel. Authorities now have to go in and verify the actual depths of the water, which raises some pretty serious questions about the billions of dollars previously spent on channel dredging contracts by the Bonny Channel Company. It is a complete logistical meltdown, all triggered by a single point of failure. As we bring this explainer to a close, it's hard to shake the image of the grounded Maersk Valparaiso sitting there at sunset. I mean, it's this towering symbol of modern global trade, just completely immobilized in the mud. It forces us to ask a deeply provocative question. If a single massive ship can crash, trigger a severe ecological hazard, and secretly freeze an entire region's supply chain for 3 whole days before authorities even find out, just how fragile and how blind is the global maritime network that delivers the very goods we rely on every single day? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me to unpack this complex event, and as always, stay curious.